So hello everyone, today I'm going to show you my render setting that I use to render my scenes in Unreal Engine 5. So I will just go to my level sequencer render queue, and in the render, there you can see. So you can see I am having an EXR. I will just remove this thing so it's easier for you to understand that what I use in the final render. Yeah, I think everything is good. Yeah. So I use EXR, and in the defer rendering I didn't change anything. In the anti-aliasing, this one I use temporal super resolution. So I will make another tutorial for this one, what is temporal super resolution and other stuff, because it's a very useful tool in order to get real-time rendering. So I use this thing sometimes when I don't have time and I need some renders to be very quick, then I use this thing. So but this thing has a limitation, so it doesn't give you that type of high quality render. So I will recommend you to just off this thing, okay? And in this one I just use 1:16, okay, like this. And probably sometimes I just go with 2:16, not more than this, because I don't have like too much high-end graphic card, so I just leave this thing like that. And I use render warm-up counts. I used to like take like 64, something like that sometimes, or I just leave this thing to 32. It works perfectly fine for me. And yeah, I use this thing. And in the color output, I use a OCI, Access Transform Color Space. So if I go, you can see there is my access color transform. And if I show you how to create this, it's very simple. You have to just go to your open color IO, and then you have to just create and save your directory like this. And then what you have to do, you have to just go there where you created your OCI configuration. You have to double click, and then you will see something like this, okay? You have to just double click this one, you will get something like this. And then you have to just set your access, not access, sorry. You have to go to utility, linear to rec 709, and access to SSCG, okay? And then you have to just save it. Then cut this thing, close this thing. And then in this one, in the transform source, you have to just select linear to rec 709, and this one to SSCG to this one, okay? And yeah, it's done. And I didn't change anything to this one. And you have to just make sure that it is untick, disable tone curve. And the next thing that I use is console variables. So there are so many console variables you can see, but I didn't use this all. I just use this R shadow distance scale 0, and I use this one R shadow quality 5. When I'm using bloom in my renders, I just use this one R dot bloom quality 5. And when I use volumetric stuff like volumetric, fog, anything like that, I use this console variables. You can pause it and you can see these things. And I use motion blur quality always. And this one is I use always R dot screen percentage 125. And I use depth of field, okay, this one. So I basically use like 1 2 3 4 5, this 5 always I use, okay? And these things are like depend on my project, how I use blooms in my scene and that's other stuff, okay? So for you it will be just fine if you use this 5. And then in the game override, I didn't change anything, I just leave it like this. And in the output, you will see I didn't change anything, but you have to just set your directory there like this and save wherever you want to save your files. And in the resolution, I used to go with 1920 by 1080p, and sometimes I go 1280 720p, because if my render is if my like not render if my scene is very heavy and it doesn't allow my graphic card to render that scene in 1080p, then I have to downscale that thing in 720p so that I could able to render that thing. So yeah, on that type of situation I just use 1280 720p resolution, or else I will just go with 1920 by 1080, okay? And if you're a beginner and if you're thinking like how to get this type of stuff, you have to just click on this settings and you will get these things, okay? So after that I just hit render, and yeah, everything is fine. So the one thing that you have to keep in your mind, that if you're using my settings, then you will see that I use a color space output, okay? This one. So I will recommend you to use these things because it will give you the maximum dynamic range of your image to do color grading, because color grading make your this render more pop, and I will recommend you to use these things. But suppose if you don't know and you are a beginner, then do not do these things. Just disable this thing and just enable this thing, disable tone curve, okay? If you are using EXR format, okay? So just do that thing, and yeah, it will be perfectly fine for you. Okay, and if you don't want to use EXR also, then you can just go there and you can use PNG or JPEG. Okay, like this PNG. So it will be just will be fine. You will export that thing in any software and you will get the similar output from that thing. Okay, so if you are using PNG, I will not recommending you to use PNG. You will not get that type of dynamic range compared to the EXR one, because this one is 8-bit. Okay, you can see, and this one is 16-bit. You will get more dynamic range in color in this one and as compared to PNG. Okay, so just use EXR, and if you don't want to use color output, then just disable this thing. Okay, and leave this thing untick. Okay, and if you're using OCI configuration, this one, then you have to enable this thing and you have to follow the step that I show you. Okay, then press accept, then you have to just press render local. Okay, so when you render your stuff and it's completed, you have to go to your folder where you save your location to render, and then you have to just select all of this EXR files. You will see something like this EXR. If I show you in this view, you will see something like this. Okay, EXR files. What you have to do, you have to go to your software, whatever software you are using. For me, I'm using DaVinci Resolve for my editing stuff, and it's a free software. You can use this thing for editing. I will just drag drop this thing to my scene, and yeah, there is two stuff. I will just remove one. And now when you drag drop this thing into your scene, you will see something very weird. Okay, the colors are totally off in this one, and if I show you the Unreal Engine one, then you can see it is different. Okay, if I just drag drop this thing like that, and if I go to my main one, then you can see it looks different in this one. Like, look at this, and if I go to this one, it looks very different. Okay, so why it is showing like this? Okay, so the main reason is for that is we are using a color space. Okay, you remember that I use this OCI configuration, that stuff, this one. This is the reason why this is showing that type of weird colored. So in order to fix this, what you have to do, so if you're using DaVinci Resolve, you can follow these steps, and if you're using other software like After Effects, you can watch other tutorials. There are many tutorials in YouTube. They show you how to use assets in After Effects or in Premiere Pro, and whatever you want to search, you can search that thing. For now, this tutorial, I will just show you the DaVinci one. You have to just go to your setting, this one. Then in the color management, you have to go there, and it will be not looking like this. Okay, what you have to do, you will see something like this. Okay, DaVinci Y RGB. What you have to do, you have to just go there. You have to make this thing SSCCT. The SS version should be 1.3. SS input transform should be no transform. SS output should be Rec 709. Make sure this is ticked on, and you have to just copy this thing. Okay, just copy this thing, pause the video and copy this thing, and then you have to just press save. Okay, after that, what you have to do, you have to click on your file that you just exported from your folder, and you will see you have to just right click and you have to go to SS input transform, and then you have to go down. There is an option of color space conversion, and in this one you have to go to this one SSCCG, and you have to click like this. So if you can see, it is not looking same still. If you see, this one is brighter and this one is darker, and this thing will not happen to you because I didn't use this render settings. Okay, I didn't. If I show you like this one, I didn't use the anti-aliasing like this one. Okay, I didn't use 2:16. What I did, I used TSR, this temporal super resolution, and I just rendered this thing just one sample. That's why it is showing like that. Okay, so why I did this, because if I try to just render this thing into like normal this settings 2:16 and turn off this thing, it is not rendering my scene. Okay, because it is too heavy for my GPU to render this thing. And if you are using this TSR, then it will be like look like this. Okay, it will be not similar because you will lose too much dynamic range, that stuff. Okay, but you can fix this thing, and that's why I say why you should use EXR, because you are having that advantage of dynamic range. Okay, you can make this thing pop like that, similar to this one, like that you're seeing in the scene, like this, very easily. Okay, you have to just do some color grading. If I show you, and if I show you this thing, look at this. See, this is like brighter pop and everything, looking better than this one. Okay, that's why I'm saying, you see, if I show you the comparison, this one and this one. Okay, Look at this. See, it is looking much better than this one. Okay, that's why I'm saying that you should always use like EXR. Okay, never use PNG format, always use EXR. Okay, no PNG, no JPEG, nothing. Do not use that type of stuff. Okay, so for me I have to do this thing because I use TSR, but if you're using the render setting that I showed you earlier, like 2:16 or 1:16, that this problem will not be happen to you. It will be normally render like your this shot, the shot that you're seeing, this area. If I show you like this one, you will get similar to this one shot, and you don't need to be very worried about this type of stuff. Okay, so yeah, that's the thing for my render settings. I hope you understood what I said. And yeah, if you are having any kind of doubt, then you can just tell me. I will try to solve that problem. Okay, if you know something new, like something new tips for rendering, and if I do something wrong in my rendering settings that I show you in this tutorial, then please tell me. It will be helpful for me. Okay, that's it for this tutorial. Thank you for watching.